Of all the classes in World of Warcraft that use pets, the hunter is the only one that has to go out and tame it themselves. This is done by using the Tame Beast spell, which requires the hunter to maintain aggro of the beast throughout the entirety of the spell's channeling time. Importantly, this means that only beasts that are hostile or neutral can be tamed, while those that are friendly can't. Ever since the game's release in 2004, there have been some pets that were more rare and sought after than others, usually because they were on a long respawn timer. But the rarest have actually been those that weren't originally intended to be hunter pets, because these were only available for a limited time before Blizzard realized and made them untamable. They also often required accurate timing or coordination with other players, which could make the taming itself quite difficult. In this video, we'll be going back to the time when hunters turned themselves hostile and tamed animals that were never supposed to be pets. This is the story of World of Warcraft's rarest hunter pet. When World of Warcraft's 4th expansion, Mr. Pandaria, received its second major content patch, known as the Thunder King or patch 5.2, 2 new islands were added to the Pandaria continent. These were the Isle of Thunder, which housed the latest raid, Throne of Thunder, as well as an ongoing war effort, where players would fight against the island's Mogu, Saurok and Troll population, the latter of whom were known for their large Devilsaur and Direhorn companions. On the opposite side of Pandaria, players could find the Isle of Giants, which was populated by wild versions of the dinosaurs from the Isle of Thunder. These dinosaurs were all elite, but some classes, like the Hunter, could still solo most of them, especially the smaller ones closer to the beach. The Isle of Giants also had a few small troll camps, where hunter players could find a tome that taught them the ability to tame the direhorns found on the 2 new islands. Once tamed, the direhorn had the special ability of deflecting spells that were targeting it. Despite its novelty, the direhorn was not a popular pet among hunters, and this was in part because it wasn't very useful when compared to other tenacity pets like the rhino, which had a strong knockback, or turtles that could reduce the damage taken by 50%. In addition to this, the tameable direhorns were also all recolors of the same basic model. Interestingly, there was one exception, the stunted direhorn, which had the unique model of a Triceratops hatchling. It could be found within troll camps on both the Isle of Thunder and the Isle of Giants, and even though they were listed as tameable, something players were able to confirm by using the Beast Law ability, it was impossible for hunters to actually tame them because they were friendly to both the Horde and the Alliance. When the pre-patch for the Legion expansion released, it came with its own invasion event, where players would defend the old zones of Kalimdor and the Eastern Kingdoms against ongoing attacks by the Legion. During this event, players who were inside the capital cities of either Orgrimmar or Stormwind had a chance to hear Dark Whispers. This was a buff that turned the player into an agent of the Legion and allowed them to cast a series of spells that targeted friendly players and NPCs. One of these spells was Hysteria, which could be used to turn a group of players or NPCs hostile to everything for 10 seconds, meaning that they could attack other players and even friendly guards. While the spell could only be cast within either of the 2 capitals, players could still leave while they had the buff, and remembering the friendly and supposedly tameable stunted direhorn from 3 years prior, a dwarf hunter named Varmo tested whether it would be possible to tame the direhorn by first getting the Hysteria buff, and then having a warlock summon him to the stunted direhorn before the buff ran out. Surprisingly, this actually worked, and after being tamed, the stunted direhorn kept its unique appearance and grew to a size that was much larger than it was supposed to. After posting a successful tame on a hunter forum, hunters began recruiting players to buff them with Hysteria, and then summon them to the troll camp on the Isle of Thunder, or alternatively the Isle of Giants, where the stunted direhorn was guaranteed to spawn. Even with help, this taming was not easy, because Hysteria had a very short duration, and if it fell off while Tame Beast was still channeling, the stunted direhorn would immediately turn back to being friendly and drop its aggro, which of course cancelled the spell. Hunters noticed that the stunted direhorn wasn't the only friendly beast that was tameable, so they used the same buff to tame other beasts, like Dottie the dog in Stormwind, or Frostwolf from Blackspire Citadel, which was friendly to the Horde and existed in a phase of the zone that the Alliance could never enter. The Frostwolf had a regular model, similar to other wolves in Draenor, but what made it unique was that it was classified as a worm according to Beast Law. When Horde players tried taming the supposed worm in wolf's clothing, it indeed turned out to have all the spells and talents like that of a worm. Not all of the friendly beasts that showed as tameable according to the Beast Law spell actually turned out to be tameable when hunters with the Hysteria buff tried to tame them, but most of them were. Seeing as hunters were openly recruiting players on both forums and in-game chat channels, Blizzard quickly caught wind of this, and just one day after Varmo had tamed the very first stunted direhorn, The hysteria effect was hotfixed to fall off immediately if the player left Stormwind or Orgrimmar. And as a result of its short lifespan, as well as how difficult it was to coordinate and perform, very few hunters managed to get the stunted direhorn using this exploit. As part of Hysteria's hotfix, the stunted direhorn was hardcoded to now be untameable, but those who had tamed them before this were able to keep them, and their size was even changed to that of a normal hunter pet, although its size being changed was likely just a byproduct of Blizzard fixing another unrelated bug that happened when mages used the direhorn version of the polymorph spell to crowd control pets. After Legion, Blizzard continued adding friendly beasts that were tameable, and surprisingly, they also added new ways for players to become hostile to them and then tame them. First, during the Battle for Azeroth expansion, where an item allowed hunters to become hostile to otherwise friendly cloud serpents in the expansion's version of the Valley of the Four Winds zone. And later in the Shadowlands, when an item tied to the Necrolord Covenant was introduced. It turned players into constructs, making them neutral to both hostile and friendly NPCs, and it was meant to make passage through the otherwise hostile House of Constructs in Maldraxxus easier, but due to a bug, it worked everywhere, and not just within the zone it was intended for. Unfortunately, it only took around 12 hours for Blizzard to fix the bug after it was shared on Hunter forums. Additionally, the item was only available for players of the Necrolord Covenant, which happened to be the least popular Covenant choice. As a result, it didn't become nearly as widespread as the Hysteria buff from Legion had been. Luckily, some hunters did succeed in using it to tame friendly beasts, and the most notable of these was the unique golden version of Sulong that could be found in the Terrace of Endless Spring raids from the Mist of Pandaria expansion. When the Dragonflight expansion launched 2 years later, players once more got the chance to turn hostile, this time by using the Nakut battle gear, which was created from 3 pieces of equipment that dropped from members of the faction. The battle gear disguised the player as a member of the Nakut faction, making them friendly to the faction while being hostile to everything else. And its main purpose was to allow players to complete 2 achievements in the area. While it could only be used in Nakut Hold, it would not immediately fall off when the player left the area, and the hunter was able to use it to tame the friendly messenger mallard duckling, which could be found in a valley just nearby. Somewhat unusually, the hunter never posted their findings anywhere, and it took 2 months before another hunter noticed the unique pet and posted an image on the forums, but by this time, the bug that had allowed the battle gear to persist outside of its intended area had long been hotfixed, and this hunter is likely the only player that has a duckling for a hunter pet. While this is where the story ends for now, friendly beasts that are tameable can still be found all around Azeroth, and if the past is any indication, it might just be a matter of time before a hunter finds a way to tame them.